Hello and welcome to this virtual open day at Oxford's Faculty of Theology and Religion. I'm sorry that you haven't been able to come physically to Oxford and see everything the beautiful city has to offer, but I'm delighted to welcome you here online, and I hope that I'll be able in the next 20-25 minutes to tell you some useful things about admissions and applications to theology and religion and its other joint school courses at the University of Oxford. My name is Dr. Mary Marshall. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies and Outreach for the Faculty of Theology and Religion, and I also coordinate undergraduate admissions for the faculty. I'm also a college admissions tutor, and so I see the process from lots of different angles. In this presentation, I don't propose to repeat any of the general information that's already covered by the Open Day Information Centre. There are lots of general sessions on Oxford admissions. Do please make sure that you drop in virtually on one of those. What I propose to do is talk about elements that are specific to students applying for the BA in Theology and Religion, in Philosophy and Theology, and in Religion and Oriental Studies, our 3 degrees from this faculty. A colleague of mine, Dr. Dave Leal, has prepared a short video presentation on the philosophy test, which is available separately in the same tab where you found this presentation. I therefore don't propose to speak in detail about the philosophy test. I'll begin just with a run through of the key dates in the application process. Now, there's a very important caveat and disclaimer here. The dates on this slide are correct today, but always double check on the main university website, ox.ac.uk/admissions/undergraduate. That website is continually updated. The deadlines there are definitive. What you're doing now, I hope, in visiting this webpage is choosing your course. You're thinking about what course you would like to study, and on this open day you might also think about which college you would prefer to study at. Of course, you don't need to choose a college. You can make an open application to any college and your application will be allocated to a college. Remember that not all of Oxford's colleges offer the 3 degrees that we deliver. If you want a list of the colleges that do offer Theology and Religion, Philosophy and Theology, and Religion and Oriental Studies, please do check that main undergraduate admissions website or the FAQs on the Theology faculty website. The UCAS application deadline is the 15th of October for Oxford admissions, the 15th of October 2020. But before you submit your UCAS form, you should work out whether you are required to sit an admissions test, because if so, the registration deadline for that test is also the 15th of October. If you are applying to Philosophy and Theology, you will need to sit the philosophy test and register for that test by the 15th of October. If you are applying for Religion and Oriental Studies and would like to specialise in either Judaism with Hebrew or Islam with Arabic, so those 2 course options, then you will be required to take the OLAT, and you must register for that by the 15th of October. Other language options in Religion and Oriental Studies do not require a test. And then all applicants, including those for Theology and Religion, are required to submit a piece of written work to the college that's processing their application by the 10th of November. We anticipate that interviews for those 3 courses will take place in the week of the 6th to the 11th of December, and applicants will hear the decision in January. On recent averages, about 1 in 3 applicants to Theology and Religion is successful, and about 1 in 5 to Philosophy and Theology, and the success rates float around that kind of area. The information that tutors use to make an admissions decision is no secret. There are no hidden sources of information that inform our decision. In fact, you supply the vast majority of it. We look at your academic record, that is, the exams you have taken, the grades that you've got, your UCAS reference, your UCAS personal statement, your admissions tests if you're required to take them, the work that you submit by the 10th of November, and if we interview you, your performance at interview. You supply all that data, and of course, we help you to supply it if you're invited to interview. We also have access to another source of data which you do not supply. It comes to us from a third party, and that is data which helps us to contextualize your academic record, to look at your academic record in the context of the schools where you have studied and in the circumstances and the area where you have sat those exams. Thinking about the UCAS form, which supplies, of course, a great deal of information, the selection criteria which tutors use before interview to shortlist candidates for interview is the strength of the UCAS form, a supportive reference, excellent past examination results, and of course, you must be predicted to achieve or have achieved the standard conditional offer, which is 3 A grades at A level or equivalent. Pre-U, IB, Scottish Higher, the list is extensive and very, very many international qualifications. Rather than list them all and risk getting muddled in the recording, I encourage you to check that main Oxford Admissions website where there is an exhaustive list of qualifications and what 3As at A level is equivalent to in those qualifications. Please note that none of our courses requires previous study in any particular subject. You are not expected to have studied religious studies, philosophy and ethics, or any particular A-level subject at higher level IB or Scottish Higher. There is no subject specification among those previous qualifications. Within these selection criteria, I think it's important to note that excellent is not the same as perfect. We have a very large number of applications every year. All of our applicants, or nearly all of our applicants, are very, very well qualified. But we don't expect students to be flawless. Do not allow flaws in your academic record to dissuade you if your academic record is nevertheless strong and you're going to meet those predicted grades. So excellent is not the same as perfect. Moreover, our tutors understand that unfortunate and sometimes tragic things happen to good students, and that can leave an impression on their academic record. So, if your academic record does not fairly represent your academic achievement or potential, because you have suffered, for example, bereavement or illness, it is very helpful for tutors in Oxford to know this. Do not try to disguise it. Do not hope that admissions tutors will not notice. What admissions tutors will want to do when they notice is to place that performance within a narrative that contextualizes it. The easiest way to do this is if your referee is able to explain the low points in your academic record and make a case as to why Oxford's tutors should still consider your academic record excellent and your potential excellent. So that UCAS reference is important to us for all candidates, and especially if there's anything in your academic record which might require explanation. Your UCAS form also includes, of course, your personal statement, which is personal. It is your chance to introduce yourself as a potential student on the course. That is what tutors are looking for, a good fit with the course. They want to admit potential students for the courses that they teach. So you're not required to introduce us to the courses that you've studied or to the books that you've read, but to how you have interacted with those things. So do write it yourself personally. However tempting, don't let somebody else write it for you. Do write honestly. Tell the truth about yourself. Don't try to introduce a false picture of yourself. Don't embellish the truth with things that you hope to read or the person that you wish you were, but think about what you have done, what you have read, what you do have to offer as a student on the course. And you should demonstrate your enthusiasm, your interest, and your aptitude for the subject. Tutors are looking for all those things. Now, as good students, you probably already know a statement is worth very little unless it's substantiated. So your demonstration of enthusiasm, interest, and aptitude might include evidence of, for example, how your current courses are preparing you for further study, how your current courses have piqued your interest in the courses to which you're applying. Sometimes the link might be obvious, sometimes it's less obvious. In either case, don't be afraid to say. Tell tutors why studying art and design has made you think seriously about theology and religion, for example. Provide us with evidence of your own supercurricular engagement. Supercurricular means above and beyond the curriculum. We like students who want more, who aren't satisfied with the textbook, who aren't satisfied with the pre-U syllabus, but they want to reach beyond it. Why take the word of the textbook when you can go to the primary source? Why be satisfied only with the lessons in school when there are podcasts and public lectures at local universities available to you and online? Take every opportunity you can to feed your interests and your academic engagement, but remember to feed the interest which is special for you. It is a personal statement. Give an account of your personal academic interest, what interests you about the subject you're applying for, and why. So correspondingly, the don'ts are very straightforward. Don't embellish the truth. There's no need. And don't spend too long outlining your extracurricular achievements and interests. Those are your interests completely outside of the academic curriculum. So your sporting, drama, music pursuits. On a personal level, I couldn't be more pleased that the students I meet tend to engage in a wide variety of extracurricular activities and often to a very high level. Make sure on this virtual open day you try to suss out the wealth of things that Oxford has to offer in that regard. But as an admissions tutor in theology and religion in joint schools, I'm interested in how you will perform as a potential student on my course. What you do beyond that course doesn't inform my decision about whether to admit you. Remember that your UCAS form will be read by all of the universities to which you're applying, and some universities are interested in your extracurricular achievements. So don't feel that you shouldn't mention them at all, but don't devote a lot of space to them. All universities will be interested in your academic achievements, interests, and pursuits. All students are required to submit, all applicants, I should say, are required to submit a piece of written work, which ideally would be a single self-contained piece of writing that you've completed as part of your current or recent course of study. We don't want it really to exceed 2,000 words in length, and that's an absolute maximum. To submit something shorter is fine. We're interested in quality, not quantity. It can be on any subject. If your best essay is on a subject related to philosophy or theology or religion, by all means, submit it. But if you think your best work has been in English or history or politics, do feel free to submit that. It can be a piece of work you've written for homework, for classwork, as a practice exam essay, as a mock exam, for a school competition. You can have written it to any purpose and in any context. The cover sheet that you submit with it will require you to describe how and why you wrote it and what support you've had. And speaking of support, one thing we do like to see, and don't worry about it, we like to see teachers' markings on that work. Your teacher has read your essays. Do ask your teacher's advice. They may have an opinion as to what is your best piece of work. So there is no need to rewrite an essay for us or to make a fair copy in your best handwriting, although we do prefer it if what you submit is legible. There is no need for you to write something on purpose. In the vast majority of cases, something from your current or recent course of study is fine. If you don't write essays for your current course of study, or you don't have a recent essay, the most recent essays you wrote 20, 30 years ago, then you can find ideas on what you can submit in the frequently asked questions on our faculty website. So please take a look there and don't hesitate to get in touch. But if you do have current work, Please don't imagine that an admissions tutor would rather read something you'd scratched together about their specialist subject rather than something you've written from a point of information and confidence on your own specialist subject. It is absolutely fine to extract from longer pieces if that's the best thing for you, if, for example, you've done an EPQ, but please don't submit a whole EPQ. Extract something that stands alone, and you may provide a couple of sentences at the beginning to place that in the context of the bigger piece of work. When we read your written work, we are reading it with an eye on the following criteria. Does it show that you can think clearly and reason coherently? So it's important that you're including written work, that you're submitting written work that shows that you're thinking and reasoning, not just a description of something. Evidence of independence of thought. That doesn't mean that you think something no one else has ever thought, but it means that you're taking some ownership of what you're writing about, that you're telling us your evaluation of it, your opinion of the material, not just rehearsing or summarizing points that you've read. Have you structured the work and the arguments in a logical way? And related to that, can you write clearly? Can you express yourself in writing? Although the admissions process supplies us with lots of information about how you perform when you're under pressure in an exam hall, say the test marks or your international baccalaureate marks, or even an interview on the spot, written work can often, although not always, supply us with an opportunity to see how you perform when you're being asked about something that you've studied, where you're prepared, where you're confident, where you know what you're doing, where you're comfortable. Do remember, by the way, to keep a copy of what you've submitted and read it over before your interview. If you're invited to interview, remember please that you might be interviewed at a different college from the one to which you applied. The faculty operates a system whereby we redistribute some applications so that all candidates get a fair consideration. If you have been reallocated to a different college, that means that we consider your application as being well worth considering by that college. If you applied for philosophy and theology, you may be invited to interview for theology and religion. Candidates who apply for philosophy and theology also meet the criteria for theology and religion. If they're not going to be considered for philosophy and theology, theology and religion tutors may decide to interview them for the single school course. Again, that is a positive sign that your application is considered worthy of consideration. It's not an administrative error. On average, over the past few years, we've interviewed about half of the applicants to philosophy and theology and about 2/3 to theology and religion. You'll notice I'm not giving statistics for religion and Oriental studies. Unfortunately, the numbers are such that I can't release that data without revealing private information. An interview is primarily a conversation lasting about 25 minutes. It's not a quiz. You're not going to walk in and have questions fired at you about what you know. The interviewers won't necessarily assume any subject knowledge. You will be given, quite probably, a stimulus or prompt, material, a text, an object, or an image to think about and which forms the basis for discussion. Although the precise questions you'll get, the style of the interview, the kinds of prompts and stimulus you have will vary from college to college and tutor to tutor. You should expect to be challenged. You should expect to have your opinions challenged, to face counter-arguments. You should also expect to have to critique your own ideas and to formulate arguments in defense of different positions. Interviews are not necessarily a case of digging your heels in. They're a matter of listening and thinking. It's a good idea to talk through your thinking. An interview is an opportunity for tutors to see how you think. So if you talk through your thinking, it gives interviewers a chance to understand how you're approaching the material and the question. Although having said that, unlike in this recording where my computer will object if I remain silent for anything more than a second, if you take a little bit of time to think quietly, that's not a problem. You are not required to give a polished performance. Remember, interviewers are not auditioning actors or speech makers, they're trying to engage with potential students. So, as well as communicating your own ideas, it's very, very important that you listen to your interviewers who are trying to help you perform well. At interview, therefore, we are attending to the criteria that you can see here. Again, it's your ability to think clearly, to understand complex concepts. We're often trying to introduce you to something you haven't thought about before or haven't thought about in quite this way before. Can you think about it? Can you form sound arguments? Are you listening and responding to counter arguments? You'll see it's not about putting on a show or choosing a side and digging your heels in. It's about showing you can think. That shows that you have an openness to learning. You want to study because there's a chance that you might learn something, that you might understand what you didn't understand before. Because our courses involve a lot of reading and textual interpretation, there is a strong chance that in your interview at some point you'll be given a chance to engage with a text. And we are, of course, interested in you displaying your enthusiasm, your motivation, your dedication, your diligence as a student. Again, why do you want to study this subject? Why are you willing to give over 3 years of your life to it and work very hard for us? That's something, of course, that we'll see in other elements of your application, not least your personal statement and in your written work, and we may well ask you to develop ideas that you've presented there as well. And an interview gives you an opportunity to display your oral communication skills, which is something we can't see on paper. Oral communication is not only about how you express things in speech, but how well you're listening to what's being said to you. Are you able to convey to your interviewer what you need to convey? So, how can you prepare? Well, you're going the right way about it already. Do your research now. Choose the right course for you. It is very difficult to convince an admissions tutor that you are a good fit for the course you're applying for if you're not convinced of that. Apply for the course you want to study. Work well in your current studies. Remember, we are interested in your academic record, and that conditional offer, those grades are important. So don't do anything that compromises your good performance in your current courses. Feed your enthusiasm, your supercurricular interests, reading, podcasts, lectures, museums. Some applicants like to keep a journal of those things just to refresh their memory when they come to write a personal statement. A journal can also be very encouraging because if on day one you wrote an entry that said, I started reading this book and it took me 2 hours to read 14 pages and I was miserable and didn't understand it, and then a few weeks later you write about how much you're enjoying the book, you can see how far you've come and how you've developed. And of course, that development is something that you can speak to in your personal statement. Don't tell us about the book, tell us about your engagement with the book. Take opportunities to discuss your interests. That feeds your enthusiasm, it feeds your interest, and it accustoms you to academic conversation, which is what an interview is. This might involve a quid pro quo with a friend where you can talk to them about theology for 10 minutes if they can talk to you about atomic physics for 10 minutes. But discuss academic interests with your friends, with your teachers, with your family. Take whatever opportunities you can. And allow yourself plenty of time to make your application. You don't have to finish your personal statement by the end of July, but don't leave it till the 14th of October. Finally, I can't begin to answer all questions in this presentation, but there is more information at that central website for the university, ox.ac.uk/admissions/undergraduate. There is a wealth of information there. There's also a lot of theology and religion, philosophy and theology and religion and Oriental studies specific information at the faculty website. Have a look at the undergraduate frequently asked questions, www.theology.ox.ac.uk, and you can feel free to contact the faculty to ask questions about admissions. undergraduate.enquiries@theology.ox.ac.uk. By the way, on the Central Admissions website, you will find digital versions of all those leaflets that you can see in the photograph. Please do join me and other tutors and students for the Slido Q&A sessions on Virtual Open Day. Thank you very, very much for visiting, and good luck with the rest of your day.